Yes, please, and thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's 3 o'clock. I'm Mayor Val Vandenbroek, and I'll call the May 9th, 2022 regular council meeting to order and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather today is the traditional unceded territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and Musqueam First Nations. And for any members of the public who are in attendance to watch these proceedings, welcome. And just a reminder to keep your mics and your cameras turned off while you are in attendance. Council members tonight, we have Councillor Paul Albrecht, Councillor Terry James, Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Nathan Bahal, Councillor Rudy Storterboom, and Councillor Rosemary Wallace. And for staff, we have Francis Chung, our Chief Administrative Officer, Darren Light, our Director of Corporate Services, Carl Johansson, our Director of Development Services, Rick Baumhoff, our Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment, Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services, Kelly Kenny, our Corporate Officer, and our new Fire Chief, Scott Kennedy. Thank you all for being here tonight. All right, so before we consider adoption of the agenda, I understand that the individuals who are scheduled to speak to the Surrey Langley Skytrain project item on the agenda have another meeting they need to attend in person soon after their presentation here. So accordingly, they have asked if there's any way to have their presentation moved up on the agenda. The council may by resolution reorder the agenda to have their presentation be the first item of business on the agenda. Is anyone opposed to doing this? Okay, seeing no opposition. And I also understand that Councillor Wallace, you have an addition to the agenda that was circulated to council ahead of the meeting as required. The Langley Human Dignity Coalition Moose Hyde campaign, is that correct?
Oops. Yes, through the mayor, that's correct. If we could add that to the agenda.
Okay, so the motion is that the May 9th, 2022 agenda be adopted as amended by moving item 6A, presentation by representatives of the province of BC on the Surrey Langley Skytrain project to be the first item of business on the agenda, and by adding the Langley Human Dignity Coalition Moose Hyde campaign as item D under the mayor's report. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Albrecht, Councillor Storterboom, any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so the first item on the agenda is a presentation by representatives of the province of BC on the Surrey Langley Skytrain project. Leslie Ballman, Executive Director of Major Projects and Alternate Procurement, Ministry of Transportation, and Jennifer McLean, Executive Project Director, Surrey Langley Skytrain Project, Transportation Investment Corporation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm Leslie Ballman, and as the mayor mentioned, I'm with the Executive Director for Major Projects with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. And I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from downtown Victoria on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking people, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. And we're here today to provide you with another update on the Surrey Langley Skytrain project's public engagement opportunity, which is actually going to be starting today. And as you may recall, when we last addressed you a few months ago, we provided you with a holistic update of the project. And it's been a few months since then, and I'm pleased to report that the team has continued to make significant progress and headway on a number of fronts, including launching the 30-day public engagement opportunity. And this is a major milestone in the lifespan of this project. And it's the first time that the province is going to be providing the public with a comprehensive update on the full 16-kilometer extension. This includes project details such as the objectives and benefits, advanced works that are underway, the environmental screening review, engagement with Indigenous groups, and timelines, as well as an exciting new conceptual reference concept for the future stations. We're also seeking feedback from the public that will help inform the project's planning, especially around opportunities for transit-oriented development and active transportation, which are two key elements of this project. So we look forward to hearing what people have to say, both through online channels, and there will be 2 in-person open houses that we will be hosting, one that will be in Langley on May 31st. You will all be receiving formal invitations from the province soon, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you there. And with that brief introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to provide you with some further details about the public engagement. Thanks. You're on mute, Jennifer.
My apologies. Thank you, Leslie, and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you again. As Leslie mentioned, we're excited to have launched the public engagement on the Surrey Langley Skytrain project earlier today. As you know, the team has been hard at work on the design development of the project, and this engagement not only provides the public with a fulsome update on the status of the project and confirms the alignment, which runs primarily along Fraser Highway, but it also showcases the reference concept design for all 8 new stations. With the limited time we have today, I'll highlight a selection of the information slides that form part of the public engagement content that's found on our project website, material that may be new to you if you hadn't had a chance to review it yet online. First, we're pleased to be able to share some updated benefits for the full 16-kilometer project. This includes projected travel times, job creation, and exciting new active transportation pathways that will help facilitate access to and from the new Skytrain stations and drive ridership. We're also very excited about the benefits that the project will realize by the year 2050, including daily reductions in vehicle kilometers traveled, a reduction in GHG emissions, and more transit trips per year. Of note is the fact that the 100,000 residents living in close proximity to new stations is a conservative projection, one that will be augmented as municipal OCPs and land use plans are finalized and built upon. This, of course, will help to facilitate transit-oriented development, which is a key priority of both our governments to help foster complete, connected, livable communities supported by multimodal transportation options and diverse services and amenities such as childcare and healthcare spaces, employment and educational opportunities, commercial enterprises, and public spaces and points for recreation. As mentioned, another key priority for both our governments is active transportation, which is an important component of this project, with the anticipated 14 kilometers of new pathways leading to and from the stations. The approach we are working toward will see new or longer and wider multi-use pathways to help promote active transportation as a means to foster healthier and more active and transit-oriented communities. The alignment of the Skytrain Extension, as you're aware, runs 16 kilometers, primarily along Fraser Highway, from King George Station to 203 Street in Langley City Centre, with 3 new transit exchanges to facilitate smooth transitions between modes of transportation and maximize ridership on the new extension. The elevated guideway will be situated on either the north or south side of the street or in the center median. This image provides a look at sample sections of the alignment. The center running guideway from 140th to 148th, the north running guideway at 152, the south running guideway through the ALR, and the south running guideway along Industrial Avenue, leading to the Terminus station at 203 Street. Extensive modeling, first conducted under TransLink and reconfirmed by the province, as well as other key considerations, help to inform the station locations, which remain at 140th, 152nd, 160th, 166th, 184th, 190th, 196th, and 203 Street. I'm pleased now to show you the conceptual designs for the future stations that will be located in the township of Langley and the city of Langley at 196th Street and 203 Street. Of course, final designs will come after a thorough procurement process for contracting, and further along in the process, we will work with all our project partners on the station naming process. The station at Willowbrook Mall at 196th Street and Fraser Highway will feature a transit exchange to facilitate ridership from the township of Langley and Cloverdale and to accommodate redevelopment of the surrounding area. The Surrey Langley Skytrain Terminus station at 203 Street in Langley City Centre is a catalyst for a major revitalization of the area, underscored by your OCP and land use plans. It will help to foster a vibrant, thriving, transit-oriented neighborhood in Langley City Centre, supported by the Skytrain Extension and bus exchange that will connect residents and visitors to the rest of Metro Vancouver. We're very excited to unveil these conceptual station designs today that highlight the momentum of the project. The public engagement content also highlights content you're already aware of, such as progress on advanced works, engagement with Indigenous groups, and the environmental screening review. But with what little time remains, I'll end with an encouragement to check out the project website, to view all of the engagement content, and to complete the feedback form. I'll open the floor now for any questions on the public engagement you may have, and I look forward to seeing you at our open houses. Thank you.
Great, thank you both for that presentation. Looking great. Good to see we're actually going to start getting info out, so that's good. Councillor Bahal, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the mayor to provincial staff. I just have two questions. This is very exciting. I know there are still people that believe that SkyTrain is a pipe dream. I guess I'd like your sort of feedback based on the work you've done. Has there been a significant amount of design work done? And do you know, if it's publicly available, how many millions has been spent on the design work to date? And then finally, do you have any thoughts on sort of the flow between the Willowbrook station and sort of the area in Langley City? Because I know people have to cross Fraser Highway, or if that's stuff that you'll be doing in more detailed design later.
Sure, thank you. First of all, in the design work, yes, we've done some extensive design work, especially on the second half of the station. Last year, we concentrated on detailing the design, the concept design for the stage 2 portion. From 166 on, and we also optimized the rest of the first part of the station. I can't share with you the dollar value right now, what's been spent on that, but we have done extensive work. Your second question was the flow. Sorry, if you could just repeat it. The flow from the Willowbrook station to Langley City Centre?
No, to the area that we're looking to redevelop in the Langley City area of the station. I kind of think of Metrotown, where there was sort of discussions about should it be on the street? How does that work with the volume of pedestrians? Because there was that discussion about should it be elevated or at grade? And I'm wondering if that discussion's also happened with this station.
We haven't specifically discussed elevated versus grade. We made a decision early on that the whole guideway and the stations would be elevated, but we have engaged extensively and continue to with the staff at the City of Langley to optimize station location as well as the public realm and what they see for development around the station. We continue to do that regularly.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Oh, Councillor Surdeman.
Yes, just to say thank you to Ms. McLean and Ms. Ballman for your update. I sincerely appreciate you coming to us, especially with those drawings. And I look forward to staying in touch with you moving forward and attending some of your open houses. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll let you gals get on to your next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great to see you both. Okay, so on to Committee of the Whole. A Committee of the Whole meeting provides Council the opportunity to hear input from the public and allows Council a greater opportunity to speak to and debate specific agenda items. So motion is that Council commence the Committee of the Whole. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor James, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. So on to Bylaw 3217, 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw. And I believe Mr. Light, you'd like to speak to the bylaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of Council. So tonight we are, or actually this afternoon, we are just talking about the 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendment. It's on the capital side of our budget. There are 13 projects. The first 6 are relating to grants that the city's received, 2 of them very significant, relating to the city park field upgrades, $750,000 from the federal government. And then for the Douglas Rec Center, Childcare Center, an additional $2,360,750 to create childcare spaces in the Douglas. So those are exciting projects. And then there are a few other projects on this included in the bylaw that relate to projects that were in existence previously but needed a little bit more funding, either because of the tendering process or just that we wanted to do additional work on those projects. And those are my comments. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Mr. Light. So I'd like to invite anyone in attendance at this meeting who wishes to speak to the 2022 to 2026 financial plan amendment to present their comments. Ms. Kuzak, is there anyone who wishes to speak to the bylaw online?
Hi, sorry, Madam Mayor. I don't see any hands raised at the moment.
Okay, so seeing no speakers, the motion is that council rise and report. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Hall, all those in favor, and that carries. Okay, if there's no objection, we can consider both sets of minutes in one motion, that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. A, regular meeting minutes from April 25th, 2022, and B, special pre-closed meeting minutes from April 20th, 2022. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Albrecht, any corrections, errors, or omissions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor, and that carries. Okay, business arising from Committee of the Whole, Bylaw 3217, 2022 to 2026 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw. Final reading of a bylaw to amend the 2022 to 2026 financial plan, that the bylaw cited as the financial plan 2022 to 2026 bylaw 2022, number 3194, amendment number 1, bylaw 3217, be read a final time. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor James, Councillor Sturtevant, and discussion. Councillor Albrecht, you had your hand up earlier. Did you want to ask Mr. Light a question?
No, actually, all I wanted to do was, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for recognizing that. Yeah, I just wanted to express my appreciation to staff for securing such awesome grants for us to achieve some of the projects that we want in our community. So it'll be a big savings for the taxpayers and be a great addition to our community. So I just wanted to make sure I recognize staff's efforts in securing those grant monies. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I'm sure everybody here agrees with that and those comments. Call the vote. All those in favor, any opposed, and that carries. All right, City of Langley audit report. We have a presentation from Graham Flack, our Deputy Director of Corporate Services, and Christine Simpson, partner with BDO Canada LLP. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of council. Before you today are the financial statements for the year end December 31st, 2021. As part of the agenda package, there's a detailed report in front of you this afternoon on the financial statements, as well as a copy of the draft financial statements for 2021. I'd like to make a few brief comments regarding the statements and then answer any questions you may have. On page 3 of the draft financial statements, there's a letter signed by Mr. Light outlining the city management's responsibility to prepare the consolidated financial statements and to ensure accounting procedures and systems of internal controls are in place to safeguard city assets. In addition to these controls, the city engaged the accounting firm of BDO Canada to conduct the 2021 audit and to express an opinion as to whether the consolidated financial statements fairly present the financial position of the City of Langley as at December 31st, 2021, and the results of its operations for the year. With us this evening is Christine Simpson from BDO Canada, and she will speak to the audit report shortly. On page 7 is the statement of financial position. At December 31st, 2021, the city had financial assets of $104 million, financial liabilities of $56 million, resulting in a positive outcome of $48 million in net financial assets. This is a small decrease of $0.6 million from 2020 and provides a positive indicator of the city's financial flexibility, its ability to finance operating activities, and meet any current financial obligations. There are a few lines in this section that changed significantly during the year that are worthwhile to note. You will notice our balance for cash and cash equivalents dropped by $7 million. However, this was offset by an equal increase in investments to try and maximize the city's interest income. Also, the amount receivable from other governments increased by approximately $3 million. This was mostly due to the resumption of gaming proceeds, which was due from the province at year end, as well as outstanding provincial funding for capital infrastructure projects. Non-financial assets have also increased in 2021, made up primarily of $272 million in tangible capital assets. Assets are a significant economic resource managed by the city and are a key component in the delivery of services to our citizens. The final line of this statement is showing an accumulated surplus of $321 million. It's important to note that this is not surplus funds that can be allocated to fund a particular expenditure in the future, but rather provides a picture of how the city is managing its economic resources. It could also be interpreted as the net worth of the organization. If we raise revenue to acquire new tangible capital assets, a surplus will result. If the city does not invest in the maintenance and renewal of our assets over time, the accumulated surplus will decrease through the amortization charge. The change in accumulated surplus will gauge how we are maintaining our assets. In 2021, we had a positive increase in accumulated surplus of $6.8 million. On page 8 of the draft financial statements, the statement of operations shows all of the city's revenues and expenditures. When comparing the 2021 actual results to the financial plan, it is important to note the financial plan presented in the statements does not reflect any amendments adopted by City Council. Also, any prior year's capital that were delayed or carried forward to 2021 are not included in the presented financial plan amounts. As you can see in the council report, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our financial operations for 2021 was reduced compared to the previous year when restrictions and public health guidelines affected most areas of our operations. In 2021, the only areas significantly impacted by the pandemic were gaming proceeds and recreation services. Casino operations resumed on July 1st, generating $4.1 million in gaming proceeds, which were not anticipated in the financial plan. Recreation services continued to be impacted with reduced operating hours, canceled classes due to social distancing and public health orders, and limited public events. Overall, regular operations, the increase in tangible capital assets, and an increase in reserve balances resulted in the overall annual surplus of $6.8 million. The surplus from regular operations resulted primarily from an increase in development-related revenues and lower departmental expenditures. From this, $2.7 million of this surplus was directed to reserves where it will be used for future capital investment. Once these draft financial statements are approved this evening by Council, a final 2021 financial plan amendment is required later in the meeting to allow for an over-expenditure in the water and sewer fund, as well as the larger transfers to reserves noted earlier. Without going into too much detail, those were the highlights of the 2021 financial statements. I'd just like to ask if there's any questions or points of clarification I can provide at this time.
Any questions? Let's see, I don't see anybody's hands up. Oh, Councillor Sortigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just want to say thank you to Christine Simpson for the very comprehensive report with your new auditing software presentation. I can tell you, apparently it took you about 3 weeks to pull this together. It's going to take me more than 3 weeks to try to read it and figure it all out. So thank you very much. Very comprehensive. And thank you, Mr. Fleck, for helping me to understand it. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, for hearing me out.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you all very much for your hard work in putting that together. Okay, amend report 2021 consolidated
Sorry.
financial. Sorry.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, if I can just interject for 1 minute. We
Yep.
just need to hear from Ms. Simpson really briefly about the BDO audit
Oh,
report.
yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's fine. Thank you very much. I'll just quickly go over the audit opinion just for clarification. Thank you, Mr. Flack, for the detailed explanation. So we have provided our audit opinion on the consolidated financial statements, which includes the financial position, the operations, changes in net financial assets and cash flows for the year ended December 31st, 2021. We have provided our draft opinion that, as mentioned, will be signed after the approval, that we believe that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position and operations in accordance with public sector accounting standards, which is the standard applicable for municipal governments. We conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. It requires us to be independent, which we have confirmed to management and council. We will review the annual report and any other information that's publicly presented with the financial statements. As mentioned, there is a statement of management responsibility. So management does take responsibility for the preparation of the financial statements and the associated controls. And council is required to do the approval and oversight of that system of controls. We have provided our draft opinion, and I do want to thank management for all their help in executing the audit. As always, it's a very smooth audit, and they've got great processes and great cooperation. So thank you for all your help on this.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Simpson, for all your hard work with BDO. Any other, Councillor Sturdivant?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just really quickly, one key component that I saw was specific to employee future benefits. And in your report, although you identify no discrepancies and no areas of concern, there is a risk of error in recording estimated future benefits as required for specific significant assumptions of employee future benefits. Do you have any recommendations for us? Is there something that we could earmark moving forward as a guideline?
Graham, would you like me to go ahead?
Yeah, you can go ahead, or I can go ahead, Christine.
Councillor Storyboom, we really rely on the actuaries to help us with those calculations, and they are experts in this area. So the city will provide employee data to the actuary that really gives you all the information around the age, the expected life expectancy for your employees, the associated costs of those benefits, and they will perform calculations that we review those calculations and the assumptions. So I do think that the city staff are engaging the right experts to perform these calculations for you.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Thank you very much. I appreciate your answer. I guess my concern is with regard to this inflation thing that we're experiencing right now. So the actuarial tables would suggest then that we are trending in a particular direction and that we would follow that trend to try to plan for the future.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you
there is
very much.
definitely a smoothing factor within those calculations to, if there's fluctuations, the cost is amortized over the expected remaining service life so that you don't get huge fluctuations in your figures.
Thank you very much for your excellent report. And thank you again, Mr. Flack and Mr. Late as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I don't see any. So thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, admin report 2021 consolidated financial statements. That City Council approved the 2021 consolidated financial statements. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bahal, Councillor Sturdivant. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. All right, on to community spotlights. We have Living Well in Langley, a poverty reduction strategy. Holly McKeel, community planner, city spaces, and Anthony Cooper-Smith, executive director, Langley Senior Resources Society. I hope I said that right. I will pass it over to you to welcome.
Great, thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for your time today. My name is Holly McKeel. I am a community planner with City Spaces Consulting, and I'm joined by Anthony Cooper-Schmidt from the Langley Senior Resources Society. So if you'll just give me a moment, I'm going to share my screen. Now, can you see that okay? You just see the slide? Looks good? Okay. Fantastic.
To the mayor, we're seeing your presenter view. You might want to
okay.
swap.
Okay, I'll try again. You know, sometimes it works perfectly and then other times it doesn't. So it was worth a shot. Thank you for letting me know. There we go. That looks better. Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, I'm joined by Anthony Cooper-Schmidt, who's a member of the Langley Poverty Reduction Task Group. And he will be kicking us off by talking about the role of the task group, as well as the vision for the strategy. So go ahead, Anthony.
Holly, thank you so much. And hello, Mayor and Council. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak with you for the first time. I'm thrilled to be asked to help represent the Langley Poverty Reduction Task Group to bring forward the poverty reduction strategy for your consideration. The strategy has been led by the Langley Poverty Reduction Task Group, which represents over 20 different agencies across the city and the township, and meets monthly to discuss issues in this area, and has worked for the last several months to develop this strategy and working with Holly and her team. And it's been a wonderful experience, especially as somebody new to the community of Langley. I know that Mayor and Council have some familiarity, of course, but the Poverty Reduction Task Group is a subcommittee of the Langley Healthier Communities Partnership. And this work has received tremendous support from staff from both the city and the township of Langley to get us to this point. And of course, all of this work was funded with some money from the poverty reduction stream from the Union of BC Municipalities. So, Holly, you can go ahead and switch to the next slide if you've got it there. That's great. And I'll just start, as Holly said, I'm just kicking this off. Holly's going to go through much more of the meat and potatoes with you, but just thrilled to share with you the vision for this strategy. And that is that by 2032, Langley is an inclusive, connected, and equitable community where everyone can live well and thrive. So, Holly, I'll pass it back over to you.
Thanks so much, Anthony. So this project was created through 4 phases, the first of which started in the fall of 2021, where we did a lot of data collection, background research, as well as planning for engaging with the community in a meaningful way. Phase 2, we launched our engagement and we're listening to the community, including families and individuals who are living living with the challenges of poverty. And the leadership of the Langley Poverty Reduction Task Group was crucial for being able to connect with community members. Phase 3, we took what we learned from all the background research, the data, as well as what we heard during engagement, and started drafting the poverty reduction strategy. It includes an implementation and monitoring plan. And now we are currently in phase 4, where we're presenting the draft strategy for feedback. We're looping back with all of the stakeholders and rights holders that we spoke with, as well as seeking input from the public before finalization. And so overall, we've engaged with nearly 900 people, residents of the city and the township of Langley. And so due to the fluctuating health orders in place at the time, we did a mixture of both virtual and in-person activities, including 2 virtual collective impact workshops where we brought membership from diverse sectors together to hear from each other and discuss how each of them can take action to help reduce and eliminate poverty in Langley. We also spoke with many people with lived and living experiences of poverty through different activities, including 3 focus groups and 2 meetings with unique demographic groups. We also held one-on-one sensitive listening interviews by phone, as well as received significant response from our survey, where we received almost 800 responses. And we did hear from many folks who were experiencing poverty, including I think 76% of people we heard from had experienced some form of food insecurity within the past year. And over 50% of respondents had reported earning a household income of less than $60,000 per year. And so what is poverty? Well, it's complex, it's multifaceted, and as you'll see when reading the poverty reduction strategy, it really impacts all aspects of one's life and goes beyond just a measurement of one's income. So it could be from like accessing housing and services like childcare to be able to participate in the workforce, to be able to access training and education opportunities, and building networks of support to build overall resilience. So when emergencies or unexpected events happen, they're able to address those. And so Canada's first poverty reduction strategy defines poverty as the condition of a person deprived of the resources, means, choices, and power necessary to acquire and maintain a basic living standard needed to promote and facilitate integration and participation in society. So it goes beyond income. It's also about choice and inclusion. And so this local and community-driven strategy is very timely. There's currently action being taken by both the provincial and federal governments, and they each set ambitious targets for reducing poverty overall. And so all of these strategies play an important role in addressing issues at different scales, as well as within distinct jurisdictions. And so the Living Well in Langley strategy advances the 4 principles from the Together BC report, including supporting people to be able to afford housing, access education, good paying jobs, creating respectful and important relationships with Indigenous peoples, and taking action at the local level to address systemic and ongoing impacts of colonization, as well as creating more space for more people to belong. And so there's 3 common measures of poverty in Canada. You'll see here the market basket measure. That is Canada's official poverty line. And that is calculating the cost of goods like housing, transportation, clothing, food within a regional area. And it identifies the income required to afford those goods. So in Metro Vancouver, the poverty threshold, so a family of 4 who earns less than $50,000 per year would likely be experiencing poverty. And a family of 4 earning $37,000 or less per year would likely be experiencing deep poverty. And so you can see these measures are really the minimum standard. These aren't identifying the incomes required for people to prosper or live well. These are just what they need to just survive. And so in the city of Langley, using the 2016 data, unfortunately, that's the only data currently available. We'll get more up-to-date data later this year, but there was 17.3% of the households are likely experiencing poverty. That compares to 15.5% in BC, so just slightly higher. And when you look closer, poverty does impact different people differently. So when you look, seniors, youth, and children all experience poverty at higher rates compared to people in their working ages, as well as you can see a discrepancy with sex, which is Statistics Canada's terminology here. So it's not necessarily inclusive of people's genders. But as you can see, when people are children or youth, there isn't much difference, but as with age, women experience disproportionately higher experiences of poverty, rates of poverty. And so through what we heard during engagement, as well as data analysis, we've identified 10 priority groups of low income. And these are broad groups and represent large demographic groups, but families and children, particularly women-led households, women, youth, low-wage workers such as students and service sector workers, seniors, Indigenous peoples, people experiencing or at risk of homelessness, people with disabilities, people with mental health and substance use challenges, as well as newcomers, including new immigrants, refugees, international students, etc. And so we're recommending 10 game changer areas. And so these will guide the actions within the strategy. And a game changer are areas that have the potential to make significant and cascading positive impacts on one's life. And so although these are identified as distinct groups, these are all very intersectional, and not having access to one can compound the impacts of poverty. There are 4 types of actions recommended, including quick start for immediate implementation, sustainable solutions that are a bit more complex, they'll take more time, relationship building, maybe a bit more resources to implement. Building blocks are identifying all the really positive things that are already happening in the community that can be scaled up, as well as strategic opportunities for advocacy, such as during decision-making processes or budgeting processes. And this strategy undertook a collective impact approach, which is a best practice with poverty reduction movements, by bringing different sectors together to create a shared vision, to create a collective impact, and for everyone to identify how they can each contribute to the shared goal. And so the role of local government, so it's very, very important. The city and the township of Langley are already undertaking really commendable actions, particularly through convening the Langley Poverty Reduction Task Group and supporting the Langley Healthier Communities Partnership. Cities have great impact when it comes to policies and land use tools available to them to create enabling environments for many of these initiatives. Where initiatives fall outside their purview, they can advocate to senior governments to take action, as well as the collection of data and research can be very important for supporting these initiatives as they unfold. And so over the next 5 years, the city of Langley will be able to hear from the task group suggestions for how they can support the implementation of this strategy. And there will be annual reports coming forward to the Healthier Communities Partnership to identify emerging issues, to track progress, as well as in the 2023 and 2027 annual reports will include a list of comprehensive indicators to show a baseline and where you've come, potential impacts, as well as to inform next phases of the work. So next steps, again, we're looping back with all of our stakeholders. We'll be posting the draft strategy on the project website with a short survey. And we'll also be bringing this to the Langley Healthier Communities Partnership for feedback. And everything we'll hear will be integrating into the draft strategy before it's finalized and submitted to UBCM in July 2022. So thank you very much. I would love to hear any questions or suggestions you have.
Great, thank you so much for that. A lot of hard work being done there for our community. Any comments or questions? Councillor Wallace.
Through the mayor, just want to thank you for your presentation today, and being able to sit on the poverty reduction task group has been an eye-opener, and the learning that has come from it, and the approaches to it, and the peers, talking to peers and people that are actually struggling with poverty and hearing their voice, because I think that is a really important piece of hearing people that have struggled or in the struggles of, it is very complex and it's wide, and yeah, so I thank you for listening to the public, the diverse public. It's hard when you have the consensus or the census of like 2016, because as we all know, moving forward with the cost and inflations and the housing crisis, people living with poverty, whether it be seniors, newcomers, people with low income jobs, so on and so on, just trying to make it day to day. But I love the inclusiveness of this report and the fact that, how community can come together to strengthen and include and uplift people. So thank you for the tremendous amount of work.
Councillor Sturdivant.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Holly and Anthony, for this amazing report. It's so comprehensive. It's really staggering. There's so much information here. And these are quantified results from the reporting that you have put together for us. But more importantly, you have responsible solutions and recommendations for us moving forward. Can't thank you enough for this tool. I have to think it would have been nice if we had it a dozen years ago, but better late than never. And yes, we do have a situation here where we do have more than our share of poverty in our community. But as you have pointed out, this can be an opportunity for us moving forward to help our citizens, our neighbors, to pull up and out. And if we can help, I want to be a part of that. I very much do. Thank you very much for your report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Albrecht.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, thank you, Holly and Anthony. I think this is a significant document that will help set a roadmap for where our community goes in the future, where we leave no one behind. And I think that's critically important. So my question is, you're talking about a public engagement and some of that process. I'm just wondering what the timeline on that is.
For next steps for finalization. Great. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Through the mayor. Yes. We will be wrapping up in early June. We'll be getting the survey out and posted very quickly. And then we'll be finalizing everything by July. So quite quickly here.
Outstanding. I'm looking forward to seeing those results. Thank you again for all your work.
Thank you.
Councillor Pahal.
Thank you. And through the mayor to, I don't know if it's city staff, but we have a lot of great recommendations here and actions forward. And we've had other great plans and projects around this in the past. How will we be measuring this and keeping everybody accountable and seeing what's working and what's not over the years? Because I would hate for this to collect dust.
Thank you, through the mayor. I'll go ahead and then Kim jump in if you have anything to add. So we've built in a monitoring and implementation framework to just build in that accountability. So every year there will be a presentation to the Langley Healthier Communities Partnership, where they'll identify which actions have been had progress, any issues that have been arising, and then reporting out to ensure that they're on track.
And I also like to add that unlike a past plan that we've had, this is really a community-based plan where all of our stakeholders within our community are involved with this plan. So it really has, it takes a whole village to raise a child. It takes a whole village to come together as a community, as a village, from cradle to grave, to make sure everyone is living well and thriving. So I feel like we have some real successful actions moving forward and some accountability as a community for the community.
And I may also just add, Anthony can also speak to this, but the members of the task group are very driven and, want to take action and feel a great sense of urgency for this. So I think they'll also be showing great amounts of accountability and drive.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Any other questions? I don't see any. So thank you very much for the presentation, and we will chat soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Okay, on to Mayor's report. Upcoming meetings, regular council meeting. Next one is May 30th, 2022. And the next regular council meeting after that is June 13th, 2022. And first up, we have library happenings with Councilor Martin.
Thank you. Okay, the first slide. If you haven't tried Magna before and are looking to start, or if you're a big fan and looking for new titles, check out the great series we have at Fraser Valley Regional Library. The next slide, kids are invited to join us and chartered professional accountants, volunteers online for financial literacy for kids. On May 14th, learn what it takes to be a pet owner. Activities include picking a pet and calculating the cost of owning that pet. May 28th, kids learn the difference between, and this is for kids 8 to 11 years old. And the next slide, Fraser Valley Regional Library is excited to welcome Omar Al-Kahed for a virtual author visit. Omar will be doing a reading and discussing his novel, What Strange Paradise. He is an author and journalist. He was born in Egypt, grew up in Qatar, moved to Canada as a teenager, and now lives in the United States. The start of his journalism career coincided with the start of the War on Terror, and over the following decade, he reported from Afghanistan, Guantanamo Bay, and many other locations around the world. National newspaper and nonfiction writing has appeared in the New York Times, The Guardian, Le Monde, Guernica, GQ, and other newspapers and magazines. His new novel, What Strange Paradise, was released in July 2021 and won the Giller Prize and Pacific Northwest Booksellers Award. It was also named a Best Book of the Year by the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, and several other publications. And the next slide, Playaway launch pads are secure tablets with no Wi-Fi access and are preloaded with educational content. This is recommended for ages 3 to 5, and we encourage children and parents to explore the launch pads together. Please enjoy in the children's area for in-library use. If you would like to play with a launch pad, ask one of the friendly library staff for assistance. And teens have a few more days to enter the Teen Imagine contest. There are lots of prizes to be won. For short fiction to video to illustrations, it can be anything teens put their mind to. And we welcome everyone to join the 4-part virtual Heartfulness meditation series. Each session will have a presentation followed by experimental guided meditation led by Dr. Ravindran. This is suitable for anyone who would like to explore deeper meditation practices. The program is presented in partnership with Heartfulness Canada. And in-person story times and baby times are back. Baby time starts Monday, May 16th from 2 till 2:30. Story time starts Thursday, May 19th from 10:30 to 11. Registration is required, and you can visit fvrl.ca for more information or call the City of Langley Library. And that's the report for this month. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions for Councilor Martin? Seeing none, we'll move on to engineering update. Mr. Baumhofer, Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment.
Okay, thank you very much. And report for May. It's amazing. Again, it's a year. The year just seems to be flying by, but it's already the May report. This is a picture of the 208 Street project, the west side of the bridge being paved. All the paving has been completed. And today they were finishing or completing the signal work at the intersection of Fraser Highway and 208. That is really it for the major part of the works, and it was an added delay today to traffic. But most of the construction is now completed. It's just the line work. We did note there is a small deficiency in the asphalt in the median area that will have to be looked at and redone, unfortunately. So it might delay the line marking for the next couple of weeks. This is a picture of the Glover Road project. So the final lift of paving is completed. The temporary road markings were installed, and you might have noticed the permanent alignment of the line marking is now down, and it's just a matter of the proper weather to get the line marking down for permanent markings. And this is a shot just showing by Innes Corners, showing the added bike lane and median between the bike lane and the travel lane. And this is a picture of the 200th Street sewer project. The final lift of paving has now been completed. There is a little bit of work to be done yet near or right at the sewer tie-in point to the Metro trunk line, which is right just south of the Nicomeco Bridge. That will be done in the next couple of weeks. It'll take a day or two to complete that work. It's just been a matter of coordinating with Metro Vancouver to get that part of the project completed. Paving was cut short of that area, so any excavation will be done. It won't be excavating into the new formed asphalt, and that'll all be paved and completed once that work is done. This is a picture you'll recall that the Michaud Gardens, there was a collapse of some of the ground around the penny farthing site. And you can see on the right-hand picture, the collapse of the ground into the garden area. And we worked out an arrangement with the penny farthing group to temporarily shift the gardens into the Michaud right-of-way, which you see on the left-hand side. So that the gardens have been moved over slightly, and the penny farthing will be using the north side of the garden area for excavation into their site so they can get the footings and foundations into the project. Unfortunately, this is a tree that damaged at Sendle Gardens. This is the one, the weeping sequoia right at the fountain. And that just happened on Friday. So probably half of the tree came down. You can see on the right-hand side the damage, where it broke off. And I think it was just a matter of the weight of the tree became too heavy and it was leaning over too far. So we'll be monitoring that tree over the next year or two to see if it survives. And if it does, then obviously we can carry on. But if not, then we'll have to figure out a plan to remove that tree. It would be a complicated one because it's surrounded by the fountain and the little creek area there. So it would have to be really looked at in detail, and probably a costly one to replace. And also more vandalism at Linwood Park Washroom. It's just unfortunate this happens, and it requires the washroom to be shut down, obviously, until the new toilets and new work can be completed. Other than the toilets, there wasn't a lot of other damage, so we expect it to be in service relatively soon, but it's just an ongoing challenge that we have with vandalism. This is a picture of a new picnic table installed at Condor Park Pond in the lower trail area. And mowing season is back in full swing. So crews are out mowing all the fields and trails. And it's just a shot at City Park. And also just a note of the work that's being done at Sendle Gardens, and just the beauty that's there for the public, and just encouragement for them to have a look. It's right in your own city. And it's just amazing, the tropical flowers that are in the garden right now, and the amazing job that the crew does in maintaining that. This is a slide showing some unstable trees at the corner of 53A Avenue and 200th Street. And unfortunately, we received a public request to inspect the trees. And upon inspection, you'll see on the right side, there are drill holes in the base of the trees. And we suspect, because just the way it's the trees are showing weakness, that someone poured poison into these holes and it caused roots to be damaged and the trees just are becoming unstable. So 4 of the 7 trees were found to have these holes and will need to come down. We have reported it to police because it is damage to public property. And we encourage the public, if they've seen anything, to call police and let them know what they saw. But these trees will need to come down probably in the next few months. This is a shot of a new water main at Glover Road and Duncan, so just before all the paving work was completed. And just a note of the annual water main flushing completed in April, so before the water restrictions, but it is an annual ongoing maintenance activity to ensure water quality within the water main system. And final shot of the boulevard crew work that's being done is showing the maintenance that was done on Michaud Crescent. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you for all that great work, Mr. Baumhoff and staff. Councillor Wallace, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for your, through the mayor, thank you for your report. So many things going on. Some sad things, of course. I can't believe that people would do that to trees for one. And yeah, I'm just so curious why somebody would want to poison trees. But I wanted to, you talked about them having to come down. And of course, I'm sure you, if there's life or there's nests or it's that time of year, that will be all taken into consideration before that happens. And another thing, I didn't know that the tree in Sandal Garden was called a weeping sequoia tree. So thank you for that. It kind of, when you showed the picture, it kind of reminded me of a sculpture of a bird still for some reason. I know that people love that tree. So I'm hoping that that tree will not have to be replaced.
Yes.
But we will wait and see. And in regards to Linwood Park washrooms, in replacing the toilets, would the city consider doing metal? Because I just, when it comes to vandalism, should we be going to the, or not metal, sorry, stainless steel rather than porcelain? Just wondering, I'm curious about that, so.
Yes, thank you. We did talk about that, and unfortunately, timing to get replacement would be a lot longer with that, in terms of shutting the washroom down. So we have ordered regular toilets for now, but we're also ordering stainless steel so that they can be replaced and kind of go on a program to replace all of our public washrooms with stainless steel.
Okay, great. Councillor Bahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to the mayor through Mr. Baumhoff. First wanted to thank you for the information that you send out for projects. I know there's a project happening on my street and I got a mailer about it, which was nice. For those projects that happens in neighborhoods, is that a typical practice just so that residents know what's going on?
This one, I think the one you're speaking of is a proposed sidewalk connection to 196 there. Because it's relatively new, we wanted to just inform people. It wasn't part of previous capital projects or capital plans. So that's the reason we sent out an added notice, just so that it's not a surprise.
Yeah, I think that's really good when you do those things, and then residents, can get informed and stay up to date. So I thought it was really good. And if those are other projects that come up, I think that's just a really good approach to keep everybody in the loop, right? The more people, the better. Then I guess two other things. For washrooms, it's a concern. I think it always is. Washroom vandalism, probably every city in North America has that as an issue. Is there any design considerations we need to look into for our washrooms overall? Like, I know we talked about metal, but is there anything else as far as treatments or placement or anything with them that we kind of go to the next step? Or is it just, this is just what it is everywhere?
You know, I think it's always worth talking about, and if there are other ideas on how we can improve things, for sure. But I do think, unfortunately, it's just one of those things that people have it in their minds. We can do a lot of things to try and prevent it, but they seem to have creative ways to get around whatever it is that's done. And we've also talked about installing cameras and even installing fake cameras, but there's a privacy issue even with installing a fake camera. You know, people have the expectation that if there is an event, that they can rely on that video footage. You know, so there's some concerns that way. So it's very challenging if you had a video, and of course it would be outside of the washrooms area, but it also doesn't necessarily give you proof over someone that walks in. How do you know it was them that did the damage? You know, so it doesn't really provide you the proof that you need. So, but it is, I'm always, again, open to ideas and more discussion, so we can talk about that as a management group to see if there's any thoughts on improving, and also with police and other municipalities to see what they've done. But again, I think it is a fairly common thing around in municipalities.
Yeah, it would be, I'm sure you have, but it would be just be interesting to see what, you know, White Rock and others have done in their experience, because it just might be good. They might have come up with something that we haven't thought of.
For sure.
So that's that. And then I guess finally, like when that kind of tree damage, have we seen stuff like that in the past where people have sort of deliberately destroyed trees? I mean, I can think of, you know, the situation of the neighbor who didn't like the peacocks and shot down the tree with the peacocks in Surrey. But do we have that as an ongoing concern in the city where people will remove a tree because they don't like it? Or
no, I would say it's a rare occurrence, and it seems, yeah, I've not experienced this in my career, you know, in municipal work. And from what I've heard from our arborist, it's not a common thing at all. Most people want to protect the trees, and that if there is an issue with stability, or, you know, they'll work with us and talk to us about it through their normal channels. But this is just a very strange occurrence.
And I'm assuming if there was a development that was going to happen, the developer would work with the city for tree removal. Generally, they're not going to try to do weird things like this.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Councilor Sturdivant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Bonhoff, for your always excellent reporting. Congratulations on getting to the end of your road work challenge moving forward. Really satisfied with the results. Looks really great. My compliments to you. And I look forward to trying out that new intersection lighting at 208th Street and Fraser Highway. My condolences for the weeping sequoia. I love that tree too. Yeah, I wanted to, what was it now? Gosh, it's escaped me. I got so many things going on at the same time. I'm going to have to excuse myself. I'm sorry. Please accept my appreciation for all that you do. And I guess maybe I'll send you an email tomorrow and ask the question that I had in mind. But thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, Mr. Baumhoff, do we have any idea of why the trees were poisoned, or if any other ones throughout the city? Are we going to be taking a look to see if more have been damaged or?
We hadn't thought about doing that, but I mean, this one is an area that we've had numerous requests from neighbors in the area about these trees, concerns about them over the years. So I think it's a unique situation in this specific site, and you know, until we have evidence that there's other issues, you know, like last year, like I've mentioned, I think I sent you an email last week. There was the windstorm last winter where one of the trees was leaning badly in the same area and had to be removed. So it starts to give us indicators that there's an issue, and our arborist does stay on top of all of the street trees. So in addition to that, we will be doing urban forest management plan this year. So there'll be an inventory of all of our city trees. And that we could ask for an inspection or at least a review at the time that they're inventorying all of those as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. It's too bad that somebody has to go to that resort to do that. Councillor Stordevin, did you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I appreciate you letting me speak to this again. I'm sorry, I forgot where I was last time, but I too wanted to ask if we were going to be doing an inventory of city trees, and if these trees in particular are on city property or if they are on private property, and if there is any residual value like for the timber.
Yes, thank you. The trees are on city property, and we would review that if that's possible to get some residual timber out of it. You know, there is one challenge of the hydro lines being nearby, so it's very difficult to get larger pieces of the tree. But I can definitely ask that be looked at.
Thank you very much. From my experience, when you have to take a tree like that down, if it has value for lumber, it can actually offset the cost of having the tree removed. So
yes,
let's hope for that. Thank you again for your report, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for accommodating me with the second question.
Well, technically it was the first question, so it's all good. Okay, thank you, Mr. Baumhoff. Now we've added to the agenda. Councillor Wallace, you're up with your Langley Human Dignity Coalition Moose Hyde campaign.
Thank you through the mayor for this opportunity. The Moose Hyde campaign was founded on the side of the Highway of Tears in response to the injustices and violence faced by too many women and children in Canada, particularly those who are Indigenous. On May 12th, 2022, Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians from across Canada will join in the Moose Hyde campaign to support reconciliation and help end violence against women and children. The Langley Human Dignity Coalition will be hosting a kiosk in Douglas Park on the Spirit Square stage. They will be sharing information, handing out Moose Hyde pins, opportunities for people to make pledges and hashtag and put on social media. This will take place this Thursday, May 12th, from 12 to 6 o'clock. And we're just inviting people in the community to come down and just learn more about the Moose Hyde campaign and to support our women and children. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for sharing that. Okay, on to bylaws. Bylaw 3215, 2022 tax rate bylaw. Final reading of a bylaw to levy property value taxes for municipal purposes for the year of 2022. That the bylaw cited as the 2022 tax rates bylaw 2022 number 3215 be read a final time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bahal, Councillor James. Any further discussion on this? Okay, I just want to ask staff for clarification that we're still looking at a 10.25 tax increase this year.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it's 4.35 overall, but for the single family residential, yes, it's 10.25.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And 3 of us are opposed to it. Councillor Storteboom, Councillor Martin, and Mayor Vandenbroek. Okay, moving on. Even though we're opposed, that carries. On to bylaw 3220, 2021 to 2025 financial plan amendment. First, second, and third reading of a bylaw to amend the 2021 to 2025 financial plan to authorize the expenditures reflected in the 2021 consolidated financial statements. And I believe Mr. Light, you'd like to speak to the bylaw. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is just further to the audited financial statement report that Mr. Flack and Ms. Simpson had presented earlier in the evening. This is just to bring our financial plan in line with our actual results.
Okay, motion forward is that the bylaw cited as this financial plan 2021 to 2025, bylaw 2021, number 3155, amendment number 2, bylaw 3220, be read a first, second, and third time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Storteboom, Councillor Albrecht, any further discussion on that? Okay, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Bylaw 3219, signed bylaw amendment, first, second, and third reading of a bylaw to amend the signed bylaw to change one of the permitted locations for placement of political signs on public property. That the bylaw cited as the City of Langley signed bylaw 1996, number 2125, amendment number 7, 2022, number 3219 be read a first, second, and third time. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Storteboom, Councillor Wallace, any discussion on this? Councillor Storteboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a really interesting expansion of the little land that public land that we offer up for election signs. Quite honestly, I would prefer that we just not have election signs on any public property. We are unique in that we only have these small places where we do have election signs for public property, but honestly, the signs get trashed anyway. It's just an exercise in frustration. And I can't help but think that the environment doesn't appreciate having these signs made up for a 2-month period and then have them destroyed and thrown in the bin. And so I would make an amendment that we would have no political signs on public property, only private property moving forward. If I can get a seconder. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Bahal. Further discussion on that? Did you want to make a further comment on that, Councillor Storteboom? Or?
Well, I think I've made myself clear in that these election signs, they're only available for a short period of time. They cost a bunch of money that could be used for informing the public through a mailing piece or something like that. And in the end, they wind up getting trashed anyway, which is just an insult to the democratic process. These people never seem to get caught, and yet it happens every time. And I think it's really bad form. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, election signs on private property, that's up to the private property owner, that's fine. But public property, we can just let everybody know, federal, provincial, municipal, no signs on public property, period. That'll make it easy for them to remember. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Kenny, do you have a comment on that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm just putting my video on here. And it does not seem to be working. Oh, there we go. So I'm just thinking through here, if we were to only allow signs on private property, right now the sign bylaw does apply to signs on private property, and we would want to have the same limited time period, I would imagine, for signs to be put on private property and not allow them to be put up, say now, this far ahead of the election, that sort of thing. We'd have to have some regulations to be able to control private signs. So, which might be a little bit more difficult because
Isn't Surrey City Council not being challenged on that right now? Is there not a lawsuit for it on that?
I'm not aware of that at this point, Madam Mayor, but I do see that there could be some challenges that way, but we can certainly look into that. But the idea of this was not to radically change this, but to try to address some of the issues that were talked about at the last election. So.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, I guess we can't do anything if, I don't know, it has to be a bigger change. I'm not for signs. I wish we could go forth in a municipal election without having to have signs, especially you did touch on the climate part of it. Councillor Stordeboom, I do agree with you. It drives me crazy when the township is, you know, especially, you know, the land mass that they have and driving through the township and seeing the signs. Yeah, I do agree with some of what you are saying. I would be fine with doing away with it, but it doesn't look like we have the power to do that. So, and even if we talk about the equity piece of running for an election and, you know, how costly it can be to do signs, and how some, you know, it should be an opening for people if they're interested in creating change and representing their community in you know, running for a position, that they not have that barrier in doing that. So thank you.
Councillor Pahal, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through the mayor to staff, I guess I have two questions. One of them is, do we not have regulations on private property already? Because I certainly know that every election I've run in, I've put signs on people's private property, and we've even had bylaws out when they've been mistakenly placed incorrectly. So is that not covered already?
I think what was, if you're referring to what happened last time, is that people were not placing the signs on the boulevard, they're placing them on fencing. So they were being removed because they weren't on the public boulevard, or they had to be with the permission of the owner. And also there were some that were placed within 100 meters of a voting place. So that is another consideration. If we only allow for private property, we would have to have more enforcement to be going out to making sure that there wasn't signage within those 100 meters of the voting places as well.
I guess if I could follow up, I believe though we're already allowed to put up election signs on private property, or we've all been breaking the rules for many decades. Because I know
of the owner, yes.
Yeah. So that's I think that's the suggestion here, is that stays where you can get permission from the owner. I mean, I'm also like agree with Councillor Albrecht. I find election signs are a waste of plastic. They end up in the floodplain. I can tell you that they lead to vandalism every time. I think everybody's signs been vandalized. I think, you know, it's good to be able to allow people to put a sign on their lawn. It shows support. But I don't think putting signs up by Penzer Park or by the Twin Rinks wins elections. And I don't think, you know, there's many municipalities that don't allow election signs on public property. So I love the idea of private property. That's people's rights. We never want to take that away, in my opinion. If people want to show their support, they should be allowed to. But for public property, it creates a mess. It pollutes our parks. It doesn't win elections. It causes me anxiety as a candidate on those two locations, because they usually get trashed within 24 hours. So I support Councillor Stordeboom, because I don't think it's infringing on people's democratic rights. If someone wants to go to a resident and say, hey, will you put my lawn sign up? I support that. And I think, you know, you'll have that owner watching that sign as well, which reduces the vandalism. So I'm going to support Councillor Stordeboom.
So you didn't like the little devil things that people had drawn on our signs last time, and the teeth missing and the... I didn't either, Councillor Pahal. So Councillor Sturdivant, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Ms. Kenny. How would you prefer that we approach this? Can we work with this amendment moving forward, or would you prefer to have us refer it back to you for future consideration, or would you prefer notice of motion for our next meeting? How would you prefer that we deal with this? I feel like we've got some momentum here, and I wouldn't mind just dealing with it right now, but I wouldn't want to, you know, inconvenience you too terribly much moving forward. I think we've got some time, and I'd like to do it correctly if that's okay.
Through the chair to Councillor Surrey, I do appreciate that. I think as staff, I'd appreciate being able to take this back and make sure that we're covering off any unforeseen issues that might come up, and that the amendment is going to be appropriately worded to reach the intended result that you're looking for. So I would suggest, yes, if you would like to, we have this motion on the floor. You could either withdraw that and then
yeah, I could withdraw the amendment and ask that we refer it back to staff with support of my
deferral
council
motion
colleague.
or referral motion to, yeah.
I think Councillor Albrecht might have some input here too. We're
Yeah,
good?
no, I was gonna make the referral or second the referral, so back to staff so it could come back, so.
Oh, I
I'm
thought you were
happy
giving me
with
a
that.
peace sign. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know, second, you know.
Okay, we can do that then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Mayor, and Ms. Kenny, of course, and thank you, Paul.
Okay, so we're repealing the amendment. We're going to work on that further. We still need to vote on the motion that is forward, the amendment.
To refer it back to staff. Yes, please.
Sorry, are we referring the whole thing back to staff?
I think so.
Okay, sorry. I was confused there on that.
My fault.
Go ahead, Ms. Kenny.
I'm just looking at what would be cleaner, because we've had the mover and seconder withdraw the amendment. We had moved and seconded, yes, we had moved seconded 3 readings of this bylaw amendment. Do we want the mover and seconder to withdraw their moving and seconding that? And then we're starting fresh, and a motion to refer the issue of whether to have allow no signs on public property and staff to report back.
Okay,
Yes,
who
please.
seconded? I think Councillor Storterboom and Pahal, you were the ones that. Okay, so we can withdraw that, and then the motion is refer it back to staff. All those in favor of referring it back to staff? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Satisfied, Ms. Kenny? Is that satisfactory?
Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Bylaw 3211, election innocent voting procedure bylaw amendment. First, second, and third reading of a bylaw to amend the election innocent voting procedure bylaw with respect to minimum number of required nominators for candidates, mail ballot voting, and special voting opportunities. And Ms. Kelly, I understand you have some introductory comments on this amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as part of my duties as the Chief Election Officer for our upcoming election, I do review our city's election bylaw to determine if there are any updates that are either required or desired to better facilitate the election process. So I did undertake a review, and there are several updates to the bylaw that are being proposed, which I'd like to provide a little bit of background on if I could. After the last election in 2018, Council passed a motion that for this election, the special voting opportunity at the Langley Senior Resources Society be changed from a special voting opportunity to an advanced voting opportunity. So this would mean that any qualified elector could vote at this location and not just the members of the LSRS. So also per Council's direction that following this election, staff will evaluate the success of this change, and I'll report back to Council with the results of that evaluation with a recommendation on whether to continue with having that as an advanced voting location or refer it back to a special voting opportunity. Accordingly, amendments to the election bylaw are required to allow for this change. So we've included those in the amendment. And in the fall of 2021, the province passed legislation which amended election provisions in the Local Government Act to allow any qualified elector to vote by mail. Now, previously, only those electors who are going to be absent from all voting opportunities or who are physically incapable of attending a voting location were permitted to vote by mail. So this change in legislation was largely due to the issues that municipalities faced when trying to conduct by-elections and other voting during the last 2 years of the pandemic. Allowing all voters to vote by mail if they wanted was a way to reduce in-person contacts at the voting places and also allow those who could not or did not want to leave their homes to go vote. So the decision about whether to provide mail ballot voting is not a mandatory requirement and is left to each municipality to decide. So given the uncertainty about whether COVID will again be an issue this fall when our election is being held, staff are recommending to include provisions for voting by mail in our election bylaw, which will be a new addition to the election proceedings in the city. And staff are also suggesting that the minimum number of nominators required for candidates running for council or mayor be increased from 2 to 10 as a way to help demonstrate that there's meaningful support from qualified electors for the candidates running for those offices, and provide greater assurance that a candidate is committed to holding office. The number 10 is being suggested as the legislation only allows a municipality to increase the number of nominators to either 10 or 25, nothing in between. And both offices must have the same number of nominators. So for example, we couldn't have 10 nominators for council and 25 nominators for mayor. So an amendment to the city's election bylaw would need to be amended to increase the number of nominators required for the offices of councillor and mayor. The minimum number would remain, otherwise it would remain at 2. And it should be noted that the number of nominators for school trustees would have to remain at 2 because they're covered under the school district's election bylaw. And that's what I have to abide by when I run their election. And there's also some minor housekeeping amendments proposed for better clarity of the election. So those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you very much for that clarification, Ms. Kenny. Okay, the motion for it is that the bylaw cited as the Election Innocent Voting Procedure Bylaw 2014, number 2942, Amendment number 2, 2022, number 321 be read a first, second, and third time. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor James, Councillor Bahal. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Okay, on to administrative reports. Award of tender T 2022-007 2022 traffic signal upgrades. Motion 1 that tender T 2022-007 2022 traffic signal upgrades is awarded to Crown Contracting Limited based on the tender amount of $702,097.50, excluding GST, and 2, that the Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment and the corporate officer be authorized to execute the contract document for the T 2022-007-2022 traffic signal upgrades to Crown Contracting Limited. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Albrecht, Councillor Storteboom, any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. All right, on to new and unfinished business. Motions and notices of motions. We didn't receive any. Correspondence. We've received correspondence. Access Awareness Day is June 4th, 2022. Social Planning and Research Council of BC. That was from Spark BC. So we can receive it for information. New business, motion to hold a closed meeting, that the council meeting immediately following this meeting be closed to the public as the subject matter being considered relates to items which comply with the following closed meeting criteria specified in section 90 of the community charter. 1D, the security of the property of the municipality. 1K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the revised provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. 2B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence related to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government, or both, and a third party. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Wallace, Councillor Sturdivant. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, so I'm going to do a motion to adjourn the meeting. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Bahal, thanks for coming out, everyone, tonight. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting? And that carries. All right, and Ms. Kenny will turn the recording